All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, of the World is Blue podcast, formerly known as Blue Podcast, because when you're champions of the world, you just get to, for the next 4 years, remind every stinking other club in the world that you got something that they don't. Dan, one of your hosts here alongside Nick and Jess, and we're going to be getting into Chelsea's final preseason fixture of a very short 2-match preseason at Stamford Bridge. Got it done against Bayern Leverkusen, got it done against AC Milan, a little 4-1 victory on the day for the Stamford Bridge faithful to go out and enjoy some sunshine in London, some great mood, some great attitudes, some great vibes. And Nick, I mean, even the people now are saying you can't be negative about the start of this Chelsea season, this preseason, given what you've seen over the last 2 matches. They're challenging you to find a way to be negative.
I will not be. There's no reason to be. I don't think there has been for a couple of months now, and I don't think I really have been. So anyway, we move. This is like a vibes cast, so I think we're in vibes mode. We, just saw this team on a beautiful day go out and just take care of business in two consecutive matches at home. Nice to have a couple of preseason matches at home, get the crowd up for it. And look, Jess, it feels like the first day of school. It feels like we're all getting back together and we're all going back to the classroom and everyone's excited and everyone has their new haircuts and their new outfits and their new shoes, and we're all just pumped.
Yeah, I mean, and even better, everyone is excited because Andre will stay, right? Because I remember we were talking a while back, and that was a big point of discussion of us being a little bit negative. I wouldn't say like negative, but we were scared. I think we were cautious about about what would happen in the transfer. I think it's pretty clear now that he's staying, that he's getting minutes. Obviously, with Lavia still out, I'm not sure yet if he's. I don't think it's a massive injury, but it's just like one of those things that you think, okay, I mean, clearly they know he can't stay fit for an entire season. And we've seen Andre play and, in my opinion, play incredibly well. So, I mean, no complaints, just incredibly happy and looking towards the new season.
And if you've listened to the Chelsea and South America episodes, Jess is going to be a familiar face. If you haven't, you're gonna hear more from Jess this season. So we're very excited about that.
Oh, look, there is a lot of excellent South American talent in this Chelsea team now. A lot of Brazilian Chelsea talent in this team as well, too. So I think we're very excited, to have Jess in a more regular capacity joining us this season. Let's get a couple through match reviews here just to set the expectation for this one. Nick kind of stole mine, but I'm going to continue with it. To saying the vibes are strong. Vibes are strong is the message heading into this season. I mean, look, the photo of Enzo Maresca walking out with the Europa Conference League trophy and the Club World Cup trophy onto the pitch today, I felt pretty good. Felt pretty good to flex the trophy walkout when you see Mikel Arteta not enjoying the same type of life right now. Look, Phase 1 Maresca doing way more than Phase 72 Mikel Arteta. So, I mean, it's a very, very good time here for Chelsea. What about you, Nick?
Milan is a fashionable city, fashion capital of Europe, and it was a fashionable preseason victory, Dan. That's what it was.
Ooh, okay. Jess, what'd you go with your through match review?
I'm going to be very subjective, but also because you mentioned about being South America and the episodes, and so I'm going to bring a little bit of that to here so people can get to know me maybe a little bit more. And I'm just going to say Samba Boys galore because I'm just very happy to have all of our Brazilian players performing so well and getting to contribute. And I think maybe bringing a little bit of excitement if we're going like with João Pedro and Esteban. So, yeah.
I think it's a good way to kind of, get us into this first kind of section we want to talk about, just the dominant finish to preseason. And I want to start just looking at the starting 11 that Enzo Maresca put out today, because I do feel as if, and I want to hear both your thoughts on this idea of, was this or is this the starting 11 that we would anticipate for Crystal Palace? It was Robert Sanchez between the sticks, Reece James back in his right back capacity with Tosin and Chalobah pairing up as a center back pairing, obviously with the Levi Colwell injury still looming very, very large in the side. Marc Cucurella, of course, gets the opportunity as well. We see Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo midfield, and then it's Pedro Neto, Cole Palmer, then Jamie Gittins with João Pedro up top. I mean, look, of that starting lineup, we had a goal and assists within that. And so, it did feel as though, Jess, that this is what I would anticipate and I expect. Enzo Maresca was saying that this is the dress rehearsal for the match against Crystal Palace. This is what we should expect to see in a week's time, barring any type of other concern or issue with this squad.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think not only is this like the 11 that we should expect against Crystal Palace, I think right now, looking at the players that we have right now, obviously we're not done in the market. We know Chelsea might, get a few players in, but looking right now, and if this is the squad that we have and we're looking towards the season, I think depending on the position, what we can expect, it's maybe like Andre for Gittins, or so to have a little bit more of a solid midfield choice. But depending on opposition, I don't think the 11 will change that much when it comes to the perfect 11, or what we would consider our starting 11. Even though I do expect Maresca to rotate a little bit more this season when compared to others, but I expect it to be more with subs, or maybe if it's a game that we have to save up some players for a UCL or something like that. But like the ideal 11, I would assume this is the one.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, this is right now is as close to the best 11 as we can pick. I mean, I think there could be some limited changes. So like if Badiashile gets healthy, for example, there might be some competition there. The midfield might see a little bit of shift and change. Whoever the left side attack ends up being for the season, which of course we still have a couple weeks in the transfer window to determine what that's going to look like, and we'll talk about that at the end of the show. There could be a little shift and change there, but this does feel pretty good. Like, there could be Cole Palmer on the right and two forwards potentially, or any variation on the left. But the fact that we looked at this today and we're like, yeah, that's probably it. I think it's a pretty good signal that Palace is going to see this, and we're probably going to see the lineup that Palace threw out against Liverpool in the Community Shield, which they won in dramatic fashion and penalties. So I think both teams next week know exactly what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, barring any unforeseen major transfers probably out of that Crystal Palace 11, that most likely, again, matches up and can allow us then to start to think about, and allows Sam to get a head start on his match preview podcast he'll be doing later this week. But it did feel as if this side, I think, to the point of like fitness and readiness, right? We've played now teams in AC Milan and Bayer Leverkusen who have not had the sustained break or had a sustained break and then started playing their preseason fixtures sometime at the very end of July heading into now. We had we're playing into mid-July and we're resuming very, very late right before the start of the season to do 2 matches in 2 days and then get going back out. I did enjoy seeing, again, I think a really strong fitness level from this side, Nick, in terms of comparative to where they were against the AC Milan team. There were a couple of times where actually I loved how 1 or 2 times just the offside trap that they caught them in, and some of the delivery in over the top. Like our with a change to the back four with Levi Colwell being out, I was not anticipating, I think, us to be that kind of plugged in and dialed in this early. That to me, I think, gave me a lot of confidence. Again, it wasn't perfect. I mean, there were a couple of times that Tosin maybe just looked a little caught out there, but I think in general, just the awareness, how they've been dialed in, what it looked like, the overall fitness. I think there's a lot that people should be looking at and saying, you almost might be a little further ahead than where I think we're at, like condition wise.
Yeah. And I mean, they didn't really have a ton of time to get out of condition because they stopped playing a little over 3 weeks ago. So, I think someone like Enzo Fernandez, who just, got his first minutes, today in this match, maybe a little sluggish compared to where he will be in a few weeks. Tosin kind of the same, but look, I mean, Milan are trying to get back to the Champions League. They hired Max Allegri to, try and inspire them to get back to where they were. He's a good coach. They have some good players in that system. Obviously adding a legend and Luka Modric is no joke for them. And they have some real athleticism in that group. And there were a couple of times where we did get caught out and it looked a little weird and kind of uncharacteristic because of how dominant we've been over the last stretch. But I also think it's a good reminder that we're about to play at Premier League speed in less than a week now. And Premier League speed is, for my money, just a whole different ball game. And so, someone like Reece James having to stretch his legs and get back on a few of these transition opportunities and, Trev before he goes out, having to really stretch himself and, all these sorts of things. It's just what they're going to have to face playing a counterattacking Crystal Palace team who loves to kind of spring those traps. And so I think it was a good mini test in that way that, we can't take our foot off the gas and we have to be in focus.
And Jess, I mean, just in terms of the point Nick was making there, Reece James looked on it today and looked ready to just have a fun time playing. Just even some of the things, those like dumb game moment things where he like takes the ball back, like bounces it off the defender, like the attacker to be like, oops, sorry. Like it's actually now a goal kick instead of a corner. Sorry. Like I feel like his shithousery is like elevating again to another level. And I'm just so excited because obviously our team is just so much better when he is healthy and when he's truly contributing in that right back capacity.
Yeah, I mean, I will die on this hill. To me, he is the best right back in the world till this day. Don't give me other names. I know people do. They talk about PSG. No. Reece James fit is the best in the world. And for us, that's the main thing. We have to keep him fit. I think last season, Maresca did a wonderful job with him when it comes to slowly building him back. And I think it shows. I think he's confident. It feels like he's confident in his body and what he can do and can't do. Whether or not, like, you can see that he has like I don't even know how to explain it, but knowledge of what he can do in terms of his body, how far he can go, how far he can push himself. And that can be a major asset to us. But just, I mean, I don't want to jinx it, but he looks like Reece James, the one that we all love, the one that we know. I mean, he had some clearances today and just tackles that was just, 2020 Reece James. And it's just fantastic to see.
He's also like using his body really well in these like tight one-on-one situations. Like I feel like he really enjoys going up against Rafa Leao, who is like, Leao is a very good player, a very technically gifted player, and also a big body. He's a big body winger, which is, not always what you see in those positions. Usually you're kind of up against a quicker, shiftier, smaller person. Leao has everything. And I think he really relishes going up against the big boys and loves throwing his weight around a little bit. And you saw a couple of those shoulder to shoulders where it just, I feel like that's like him. He has this big, broad profile. And when he gets stuck into those moments, it's really good to see. So, yeah.
And one thing I will say, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, because it's like how I think he grew into being the captain. I mean, he's a different style of captain. Sometimes people were complaining that he didn't didn't use his voice as much, didn't point as much. I could see little things that I loved about him. For instance, such a small moment, but when he came off and Stevon came in, he made a point of going to Stevon and talking to him. And that seems like such a small thing, but it can go a very long way. It makes the younger players, in this case Stevon, respect him that much more, and also helps them in terms of their confidence. And then you have your captain being like, okay, you've got this, go out, and just how he is dealing, not only him actually, but Enzo as well being sub-captain, how they're just talking with everybody and handling the squad. I think Trevo as well has been kind of, not with the armband, but almost a sort of captain-wise figure as well. So it's just been fantastic to see.
I want to talk about a couple of other players. We're going to do that right after our first ad break, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. So I think there were a couple other players I want to get into as well. I mean, this was an opportunity to see Pedro Neto come on, play more on the right-hand side, gets that beautiful assist to João Pedro. And again, we'll be talking about João Pedro and Liam Delap and the benefit of having two strikers that score goals, which is just an anomaly for Chelsea supporters to have to deal with at this point in time. He looked good. I think Jamie Gittins, even though he didn't get on the score sheet, was having some fun with this match as well too. Just maybe from a confidence standpoint, knowing who the wingers are heading into this season with the way that Jamie Gittins has looked over the last, two times we've had a chance to see him. Pedro Neto, again, the form he had in the Club World Cup and this appearance now. Estevao coming in. I mean, Jess, it does feel as if like the attack is settling into a really, really nice place and something that supporters can feel very, very excited about heading into this first match with Crystal Palace, and then also like projecting ahead into the season.
Yeah, I think, at least I'm talking about me personally. Sometimes when I see or hear the word versatile, get a little bit of codish of like, oh, that's not going to work. Because sometimes I think like when you're too versatile, you're not good at anything. Like you're not great at anything, maybe. So you're just good. So it is a word that I think when it comes to football, you have to be very careful. But I think right now what we have is a balance of versatile players that are good in certain positions, but they're great in other positions. So, they are versatile players, but you can identify their main position, and that's superb because it allows us to have multiple options and interchanging options, but at the same time, we can clearly understand, okay, what is like the primary attack that we have, and we know like Gittins more of the touchline. We know that João Pedro, I mean, mainly seen as a striker, even though can cover the left, and so it gives you options, but at the same time, it's not to the detriment of the players or even to the detriment of the squad. You're not like making the squad weaker because you just have versatile players. So I'm very happy. And as we've said before, I still expect us to make some sort of changes or rather additions to the squad, 1 or 2 attacking wise. So I don't think this is what we're going to be seeing by the start of the season or the beginning of the season. But I'm just very, very content. There was a lot of question marks about Nani leaving because of the goals that we know that he already contribute. And so when you're taking out a player for like other players that you don't really know whether or not they're going to be able to translate their football to the league, it's always a little bit of, there's always a little bit of question mark, as well as the Nico Jackson situation, which we're going to be talking about later on. But so those are players that you already know what they're going to give you. So there was a little bit of question marks. Okay, are we being too abrupt? Are we just changing too much? But right now, based on what we saw in the Club World Cup and obviously in these two games, I'm pretty content. I think Chelsea fans are pretty happy with what we're seeing.
Nick, are you happy with what you're seeing?
Yeah, from João Pedro in particular.
Well, again, we're going to talk about João Pedro and Liam Delap in a moment, but give me your thought about the other attackers, and how you're feeling about maybe just the total attacking unit.
I still think we're a little light. I think
you said at the beginning of this podcast you weren't going to be negative. How did that break so quickly?
I'm not being negative. I'm being objective, and I think the thing that I look at with someone like Gittins is like in this early part of the season when even if we go add talent to that left hand side or Pedro Neto ends up going over there because we shift to a different kind of setup. I still think like he's going to get some early opportunity to kind of show what he has. And I really do think that he should relish that opportunity because it could get pretty competitive pretty quick over there. And we saw last year, when Maresca figures out what he likes, that's what it is for the foreseeable future.
Sure.
Especially as you're heading into, I think, candidly, you can't make the same sort of like lineup over lineup changes that you made for the Conference League last year. Like you're going into kind of must win games every single week if you want to be competitive in the Champions League and the Premier League. So I really do hope that he takes these opportunities. I think he's looked bright at times and flashes. I'm interested to see how his growth is defensively too, because that was a huge area where I think Pedro Neto grew leaps and bounds last season. Was the way that he worked back for the team, helped the team in more ways than just, goals and assists. So that's probably what I'm looking at most from Gittins. I think the flash is there. The speed is there. I think he's getting into the right areas, which is good. I think there's now a question of like, what do you do in those particular areas?
And I think the thing maybe to consider is, there's 3 matches before the first international break. So there's an opportunity for anyone to stamp their role who is not maybe part of that contingent of individuals who, he's going to just basically say you are copy and paste in every lineup, right? Like Rob Sanchez is going to be the goalkeeper number 1 for Enzo Maresca heading into this season. We're going to have Cole Palmer in every important starting 11 that we have. We're going to have Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez in every starting 11 that we're going to have. So, your question now is there's a couple of spots then that are available for you as a player, and you have those first 3 matches before the international break. You have one more Premier League match. And like crazy enough, then we're into the Champions League games the week of the 14th of September. So like you have a short window.
We're a month away from Champions League.
Don't say that.
I'm excited about it. Yeah, that's great though.
I mean, look, I am excited for Nick to figure out a fun way to create a Champions League stinger that will play at the top that gets us away from copyright issues. Very excited for that. Any other thoughts maybe on just any of the other individuals not named João Pedro and Liam Delap that you want to talk about before we spend some time talking about our two strikers?
I was just going to say, I wanted to say a quick get well to Trev. Like, I don't think it was a serious injury. I think he walked off. But
he mentioned on social that he was fine. So that was good news.
Yeah. It looked pretty nasty in real time. And I was like, that's just like the last thing that we need. But, you know, for a guy who was brought back from loan, could be the starting left center back for Chelsea Football Club for the foreseeable future, depending on Betty Shields' injury status. Like, he's still a super important guy. He's probably the guy I'm getting on my shirt this year. I love Trev Chalobah. So,
okay.
We all do. We love him.
Jess, what was your individual you want to call out?
Yeah, I was just asking something that was talking about something that actually Sam tweeted out. He posted something about how Pedro Neto's cross finally found a header that was worthy of his cross. And I know that's a little bit about João Pedro, but also about Pedro Neto and about his crossing and about how great it is. And hopefully it's something that we can see like the output increase there in terms of assists for him this season. So that's just a little tiny detail that I'm looking towards and I'm looking forward to this season.
Well, look, it is, I think, again, all good vibes. There's a lot of great things to talk about with Chelsea at the moment. I do want to talk about the fact that we have two strikers scoring goals, and that's just a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing in the year 2025 to head into a Premier League season where you have your guy number 9, Liam Delap, scoring, and you also have João Pedro adding some goals too. It's really, really good. And I think afterwards, Channel 5 Sport had an interview because they were talking to João Pedro just about the competition between strikers. And I think like it's a little different. Like I think maybe the best like proximity is actually more like a Formula One race team where you have like two drivers and like they're on the same team, but they're kind of competing with one another. And like what you hope is that like in a Premier League football team or a soccer team that like that you would have two strikers who could find a way to like to be very comfortable with one another and like realize like, hey, I'm going to get 60 minutes and you're get 30 minutes. And like, we're going to change and we're going to rotate. But like, hopefully we can all be very copacetic with one another. And he said, like, I don't want to say competition with Liam. I think it's as good for Chelsea with both strikers at a good level. And then afterwards through the club website, Enzo Maresca had comments after the game saying about both, that they're both our strikers. We need them scoring goals during the season. We're happy with both of them. Liam played some games in the U.S., the Club World Cup, and he scored here today. They have to be without pressure or stress, and they will score goals for us, sure, for sure, and miss goals for us, for sure. But at the end of the day, they are going to help us. And, I mean, I think we saw maybe in that first just, preseason game, a little less confidence, or maybe just a little less fire from Liam Delap. But I think today, Nick, I think he definitely answered the call, both with, I think, a very nice penalty, a really, really nice penalty, and then a great, second goal too, just to cap it off.
Yeah, you'll remember that I did not think that he played that bad, and a lot of people did. And then his cameo today I thought was great. His movement looked a little bit more fluid today, which I thought was a contributing factor. Obviously, the guy has a fucking rocket attached to his boot. I mean, the ball just flies at a speed. I mean, his penalty, I had already hit the back of the net before Maignan had finished hitting the ground. Like it was hit so hard that it was rolling up the back of the net when Maignan landed on the ground. There was just no chance that he was going to save that penalty. And look, then the other finish that we saw in his second goal is what I'm really excited about, because it to me signals that he can be a part of these big team moves, right? We had held the ball for like a minute, passing it around, passing it through. Andre then finds a pocket for himself, right? And with a really instinctive layup, just like, outside of the boot, I'm just laying it off for you. Delap just goes and hits it first time, right? No hesitation. I see the window. I'm going to hit it. That's what I want my striker to do. I want my striker to understand these moments and not dilly-dally on the ball and take two touches and whatever. Just hit the thing. we need more shots on goal if we're going to score the sorts of goals that will get us into the, not only, the top three, I think, as Dan and I predicted, but also to go far in the Champions League. Those sorts of finishes are critical to, the growth of this team in the final third. And the movement was excellent. So I didn't think that he played bad in the first game. And I think his performance today was, in 30 minutes was really solid.
And then maybe just contrasting it too from what you saw with João Pedro. I think, we talked a little bit about the cross from Pedro Neto, but I mean, just showing that he has multiple ways to get involved in the attack and to make himself available. I mean, I think he looked very bright from just minute one all the way through. I mean, when he got pulled out of the game, like for his rest period, it does feel as if he's going to be really, really fun to watch. And I think anybody looking to see if, can he score more than 5 goals in a Premier League season, not penalty related, might be proven wrong this season. It feels like he's very much poised to do way more than that.
I think one word, if I had to describe João Pedro with one word, would be intelligent. If you just look at him and how he moves and how he reads the game, it's so clever. It's incredibly intelligent. I'm trying very hard not to be too excited. I'm just trying to remind myself, okay, no, it's just preseason. Don't get excited, or just it's not the Premier League, and but it's very hard. And actually that goes, I think, towards everybody basically, but mainly João Pedro, I think, because even though I always felt like he was a good player, and I was actually excited when we got him, I didn't expect him to be this good. 5 and 5. It's just, I don't think the most optimistic fan expected him to have such a great impact.
Your dog loves him too, which I look.
Yeah.
Your dog is on the João Pedro train, which I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Brazilian, she started dancing and talking, and it's
so it's a samba dog, is what you're telling us too, which is the important thing.
It is. She's a fan. No, but I actually wanted to talk something about the João Pedro Liam Delap thing that really kind of annoyed me a little bit, which was I saw this narrative and social media, and sometimes even when you see the camera panning out when João Pedro score, and to see the reaction with Delap, just something we are used to. But this idea of, you have to bring one down to talk, to like the other and to defend who you want to start, it's just nonsensical to me. They're both great players, different characteristics. Obviously, we know that they can play together. But even if it works towards the season, whereas you have João Pedro, and then later on the game, you can bring in Delap when everybody's tired and he has the fresh legs and the body, and, Liam Delap in transition, minute 70. I mean, that's insane. So it's not something, I was just kind of annoying to me when people beat them against each other. And also the fact that they're still very young. And it's something that I always talk about when you're talking, when it comes to strikers, period, but especially young strikers, that they can be very inconsistent, right? They have periods where the confidence goes down a little bit and they're not scoring. So the fact that we can have, you have the opportunity to have the other one to support, and towards periods that one is not in the best phase. So it's just, I really like the quote that you talked about João, that's okay, it is a competition, but it really isn't, because it's best for the team. And I actually think it's better for the both of them if they are scoring and if they're good. It's just pushing each other. And also, again, as we said, the fact that they can play together. So I'm just a ball of positivity. I have nothing bad to say about anyone. Well, so basically that's what's come this episode. It's just this.
It's total vibes. I would just say too, look, we know, because we have watched football long enough, that at some point one of them is going to go off the boil and the other one's going to step up and take their chance, and then it will go the other direction, and then it will flip five more times throughout the season. Mm-hmm. Chelsea have not had a 20-goal striker in some time. I would love to change that this year and make either one of these kind of step into that role, but
or both.
They're both going to have to do it. I mean, they're both going to have to step up for each other. And I think there's going to be moments where, one's better suited for an opportunity than the other, and vice versa. Mm-hmm. But I love what I'm seeing from João Pedro right now. I just think he is the money.
The big question then becomes, and we'll have Ben on the pod later this week to talk about it, but the knock-on effect for Nico Jackson, the striker market as it stands, with the valuations that are out there for players like Sesko, who had you would objectively say a less good season than someone like a Nico Jackson over the same kind of time period. It does feel as if this has just become a really weird moment for the club, Nick, in terms of figuring out what to do about Nico Jackson heading into the season. Obviously, there's AFCON this year as well. So, I mean, any, striker like Nico Jackson, who plays for, a team in Africa, who plays in that cup, would be missing for periods of the season, which is, again, not a reason to not have a player. It's just a reality of the situation. Just like when you have any other competition, you pull someone out of, hey, we know that Enzo Fernandez, when he comes back from international duty, usually misses the first game afterwards because there's a recovery period, but you still want him on your team. So these are just logistic things that you have to think about in terms of constructing your squad. It is, though, João Pedro coming in, having a really good time at the Club World Cup and now in the preseason, having Liam Delap come in, being involved. The way that the valuations are hitting, we know, we talked to Ben and Matt before. It feels like 80 million is probably the floor that Chelsea are looking for in terms of a deal. What are you thinking right now for our guy Nico?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a sad ending. What that was, kind of started off as a really positive inflection point. And again, I like Nico. I don't want to see him sold, but I think the club has kind of made that choice now. And so I'm mentally prepared myself for whatever that looks like. There's been reporting all over the place on fees. So it's really difficult to understand where the fee is going to come in. But if it's anything less than 80 million, then we're doing bad business in a market that's ripe for the picking. There is, after Šeško went to United, the striker market now is Nico, Ollie Watkins. I mean, that's really where it sits. And, the price tag is only going to be able to be met by a certain number of teams. If Newcastle keep Isak, then that probably takes them out of it. And it's probably then a European destination for Nico. But I don't know. I know there's a lot of hype around João Pedro and Liam Delap. I do think that Nico would add an interesting dynamic to this team. And, in a year that I predict there will be a lot of injuries that happen throughout the season, I don't wish for that. I just predict that it will happen just due to the volume of football that's been played over the last 3 seasons since the Winter World Cup basically, I think, ruined a lot of the football calendar. Now we're, potentially leaving ourselves in a difficult position again. And, if either one of those strikers gets hurt, then we're back in a tough spot. So that's kind of where I feel. I think Chelsea will try to sell him. I don't know if they are going to be able to do it in the same kind of way that they would want to for Nkunku or some of the other targets they've already sold.
Well, let's take our last ad break. When we get back, I do want to talk about things like transfers and then also a wonderful chant that the Chelsea supporters threw in near the very end of the game about the AC Milan goalkeeper, Mike Maignan. But stay tuned. We'll be right back. Look, the chant was, "You're just a shit Robert Sanchez," which... How the tables have turned. How the tables have turned so quickly that the Stamford Bridge faithful are chanting this, Nick, is just it feels a little bit like Whiplash. Just, I mean, but you also have tweets, from Daily Mail reporter, just around the fact that Chelsea believe if it were not for Robert Sanchez, they would never made it in the Champions League spots, that it would be difficult to deny. Some of her saves are crucial for the 4th place finish and the Club World Cup. And look, he made some top saves in that Club World Cup final that we got a chance to see live in person. His distribution was insane in that game. He was very much a critical piece of the puzzle there. And, again, he's not perfect. I think there are very few goalkeepers who are, and there are still moments that give you a little bit of just mild heart attack type of vibes. But I mean, I guess the question is I mean, you're not going to upgrade at this point. So, like, we're rolling into the season with Rob Sanchez. Like, that is just the reality of this situation. Like, so we just got to get on board with this situation, back the guy, and hope that, you know, him and the team can work together to like figure out any of the other issues, because like his generally like his shot stopping, and then also it's like his high cross claiming, like general shot stopping, pretty good to very good, and then his claiming on crosses is, I think, very good to great, and like the other stuff I think is just like unfortunately not his strength category.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like he's
the guy.
in. Yeah.
He's number one.
Look, I would just, there were times not that long ago where he was not being lauded like this. And so I think we can all just take an objective view and go, you know, if there were a better option out there, I'm sure, given the amount of signings that the sporting directors make, that they would have found someone and signed them by now. But if they haven't, and, you know, obviously the irony of Mike Maignan being at the bridge and the rumors from earlier this summer don't escape me either. Like, there's just a lot of in that one storyline to consider. But yeah, I mean, look, if Chelsea legitimately feel like Robert Sanchez can move up into the, you know, I would go like from a grading scale, move up from like a B plus into an A or even A plus over the next year or two, then they'd be stupid to sell him. I think what he has shown at Chelsea so far would not indicate that he's going to move up to an A plus. I think he would have to go on a consistent streak of performances like he has over the last, let's call it 3 months of the last season in the Premier League and into the summer, to really showcase that. And if he can do that this year, more power to him. I mean, he's heard all the shit that's been said about him, some of it by me personally, and he's probably not happy about that. And, you know, if he proves me wrong,
so he was the 5 1-star reviews that we got on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Like, we can blame that on your
Nick
Rob
Sanchez
Sanchez
needs to stop talking shit about me, Robert Sanchez. Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Jess, like, he's still, like, just objectively though, he is actually on the younger side from a goalkeeping perspective. I mean, he's 27. He'll be 28 during this season. Like, I mean, there is still an opportunity for like the evolution in his game, even though, like, again, I think we can acknowledge that, like, there are things that we feel very comfortable with him doing, and there are things that we like feel generally scared about. But I mean, that is, to be fair though, a lot of players, not just Rob Sanchez. The issue is he's between the sticks and is the only player who can touch the ball with his hands on the entire pitch, which gives you more latitude to be criticized.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing because I've also one of the most critical people, I think, person that you will find on Robert Sanchez if you're talking about last season and what my view on him. But the interesting thing is that I've never felt, and I don't think anyone ever felt, that he is a bad keeper. I think there are traits where he excels, high claims, fantastic. I don't think you can find a goalkeeper that's better than him in that aspect. He's a really good shot stopper. The main issue, I think, there are two actually. One is the distribution, so the short passes and how he deals with the pressing aspect that we sometimes see. And I think it happens more often in the Premier League than perhaps we are seeing in the past 3 months. And also the lack of focus. So the pressing and how he deals with it, it can, I mean, I think we adapted it. We saw maybe a little bit of adaptation against PSG, where you saw a little bit more of the long balls and not necessarily when he feels too much pressure. And those ended up being incredible for us. And the lack of focus, right? Because it's like he will save 10 unbelievable shots and then he will make stupid mistake. So the lack of focus and has been, I think, the major point of contention for him. And in my opinion, that's something that you can work on. So if you're looking at the positive aspect, I think that, yes, he can get better than we are seeing him. I think that's something you can work around. But also, I agree with Nick. I think that if you have the option to upgrade and get a top-notch, world-class goalkeeper that you are incredibly confident, in, then you get it. The problem is you look at the market and there aren't options. I mean, those options. And so you also have Mike Penders. So I think the logical step would just be to see how Penders does this season and then maybe reintegrate him next season as the number one. Because I know it's too soon to say, but I've been watching him for Strasbourg. Wow. Like the distribution, oof, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And such a young keeper. But I think it's more about, it's not as much about being incredibly happy with who you have, but the fact that can you realistically upgrade the positions that you have? Is it worth it to spend that much for someone that may come? And if they come, you don't even know if they're going to be number one or not, because there was a lot of talk. So I remember when we first got Jorgensen and people were like, oh, he's coming to be number one. Absolutely. And then that ended not being the truth, being true. So, I mean, is it worth it to go through that again and bring someone who's not going to be better than Robert Sanchez if you're not 100% sure that they are going to improve you massively? So yeah, I think I don't have to love it, but I think it's the smart move for us at this stage.
And it's always the situation too, where it's the grass is greener type of element, where it's like, hey, there are other keepers who have interesting profiles that you might look at and be like, man, if we brought them in, they would do this better than Sanchez. But do they do the other things that he is really great at the same level or above? Could they match that fully? And then you get in this weird like mitigation type of conversation where you're trying to like build around the deficit of a player, which is not necessarily the right way to go about, I think, maybe like assembling a squad. And I think the whole view of the can Penders become a number one goalkeeper in the Premier League is a very interesting conversation for us to have as we watch him at Strasbourg this season. I think it'll be a very, very fun watch. It is, though, as we're heading into this last week before Chelsea get back to Premier League football, you have 7 days from time of recording, 6 from the time that most people listen to this podcast, for Chelsea are back in action against Crystal Palace, winners of the Community Shield here, which, again, always nice to see Liverpool lose anything, any way, any shape, any form. Absolutely fantastic.
That Liverpool defense, not that good.
Some terrible penalties too. But we don't need to get into all that because that's their game, not our game. It does mean, though, that Chelsea have some stuff to get done in the transfer market, because the whole goal has been to clear out the side from individuals who are potentially have been deemed surplus requirements or just don't maybe have a future at Chelsea. And I think the club and the player have realized that like it is time to part ways, whether that's a Ben Chilwell or Raheem Sterling or individuals like Christopher Nkunku. And so I think that we've seen a little bit of a delay on like what happens with, Xavi Simons and with Leipzig. And I think, Nick, we've seen a little bit of news now from the Telegraph that there's this idea that Leipzig would like to bring Nkunku back and then sell Simons, which feels like really intelligent type of decision making, which would be just like an applause to both parties for like coming up with a creative solution that solves both teams' problems, particularly with everybody leaving Leipzig at the moment.
Yeah, they have to sign someone, right? I mean,
so I don't know. Are they going to do player coach type of scenario? Like that could be very interesting for them this season.
To 2 birds, 1 stone. Let's get it done. I'm all for that.
And then I think the other one too. Did you have a thought on that one, Jess?
Oh yeah, no. My question is more about whether or not the player would accept, because I have my questions. Like I know that he has the connection there, obviously, but no Europe. And I mean, there was like the reports before were that he wanted a huge club, and he had links with Bayern Munich and all of that. So I just don't know how feasible it is in practice, because we don't know how Nkunku would feel about this. So I'm just not overly excited about this link, just because it's not negativity, but I'm just trying to be objective. I don't know whether or not it's something that he would like.
His market is super strange though, because he is not a striker. So teams that need like a pure striker aren't going after him. He's not like a left winger. So if you need a left winger, you're not going after him. He really is that like 10 second striker option. And like maybe Bayern Munich come in for him, but it feels like he's going to be a late thing unless they can navigate one of these unofficial swap deals that have been mooted for a really long time that almost never come off. That I think if he's looking for a way out, I think obviously the transfer window is closing sooner rather than later, but I think the opportunities for him to move to the profile of club that he would potentially want are also not that easy.
Yeah, I think he's on a lot of clubs. I think he's on a lot of clubs' list, but necessarily he's not like the priority. So he's almost like the second choice or third choice of a lot of clubs, which isn't ideal for him. But it's the transfer. So transfer markets, crazy things happened.
Yeah, and then maybe just a few others. I mean, we saw Fabrizio Romano reporting the fact that like there's just no chance that Enzo Fernandez is leaving this summer. It's just like zero talks. Spain, PSG, they're wide of the mark, which again, Fabrizio has been hawking LG TVs for Curry's. So, I mean, like, where's the reporting structure here? I don't know. But in general, I'll take all positive news for Chelsea is good news. So I'll take all of that. All bad news for Chelsea, I just reject completely. This is one I'll take all the way to the bank here and appreciate the fact that, Enzo, off of his best senior season ever, heading into this season with Chelsea, being the only individual to win the new FIFA Club World Cup and be a club champion and then also be a world champion for his team. I think he's looking to do more with Chelsea this season, both domestically and with something called the Champions League trophy. I feel like that guy would really like to add that to his collection and hoist it here, Nick. I mean, just like I feel it coming.
Every time you bring this up, I just look, I've dealt with you for years, and this like absurd. You are right one time out of now 11 seasons. You're 1 out of 11. That's
to be fair, I wasn't why not us saying before that season. That really became an after the fact type of situation. Yeah. So let's get the record straight here.
You're 0.5 out of 11 seasons. Congratulations.
I mean, the Jess, it would feel weird to kind of view like that does feel like an immovable player at this point. Like, I think it's like, Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo. Like, there's just a couple of players that are kind of like untouchables at this moment in the transfer market for Chelsea, regardless of price, even though the club have identified like they are looking to like turn and burn occasionally with like high profile acquisitions. If they don't work, they are willing to like make a move out.
Yeah, I think there are different levels when it comes to Chelsea and their strategy. So I think there are players where they want to push out. I think there are players that they are happy to keep but would listen to offers to, which would be the majority in my opinion. I think Enzo is between that one and the absolutely immovable. I would say Cole Palmer is the absolutely immovable. Moises Caicedo, absolutely immovable. I would put Enzo Fernandez a little bit behind, as in I think the club would listen to offers, but they would have to be absolutely crazy offers, like over 100 million. And so it's like, in theory, maybe they would be open to selling him, but in actuality, I just can't see it. I don't think like they would demand so much because they absolutely wouldn't like to sell him. So it would take like maybe something crazy, like we're saying with the whole Isak Liverpool thing, someone comes in with 150 sort of, bid or something crazy like that. That would be, I think, the only way. And also the fact that it seems very obvious that Enzo Fernandez is very happy at Chelsea, just the way that he acts, the way that he presents himself. And I think he has grown in the role of captain, obviously, alongside Reece James. So when you're talking about a player that's happy, the club's happy. So I never really believed any of those links.
Another one is apparently David Jota Fofana is drawing some interest from Nice. Again, not the most high profile type of situation here.
I forgot about him.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that in the context of the fact of like what Chelsea have done so far. I mean, we have sold Nani Madueke, Joao Felix, Petrovic, Ugochukwu, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall, Broya, Amogu, Bashir Humphreys, Kepa, Bettinelli have all been sold for some type of fee.
Yeah. Joao Felix in there? Yeah.
Joao Felix was second, yes, because it was the second highest total transfer fee of the window so far incoming to Chelsea, which again, is just wild. That's not also considering the fact that we have put together some loans as well. Lucas Bergstrom left on a free transfer. Obviously, Sarr, Penders, and Paez all heading to Strasbourg on loan. We have Marguillo going to Sunderland. There's just
Caleb Wiley as well.
Yeah, there's just so much. There's so much going on right now, and so like the sporting directors are clearly like, I don't know, must be working a pretty heavy schedule at the moment to try to get this done. I mean, do you guys want to talk about the Garnacho element of the last 12 hours too? We can touch on that before we end the podcast if you really want to. If not, we can just end it and head out of this podcast on all positive vibes. But I'm willing to kind of entertain 1 or 2 minutes about the social posts if you prefer.
I just is the prop out there to get him a move. Does he have the most? I guess my question would be, does he have the most apparatus around him trying to get him a move that we've ever seen?
Maybe close. I would put him up there. There are a couple that come.
Maybe Neymar. I think Neymar was up there. But he's in rarefied air right now, where there's nothing happening, and yet every day there's an update about nothing happening. It is crazy.
Yeah, and I actually don't think. I mean, I might be completely wrong here, obviously, but I don't think we'll see a lot of movement when it comes to him until the very, very end of the window, because either desperation sale from Manchester United panic thing, or the whole opportunity that we love in the market, apparently. So that's when I can see something happening. But until then, it's I mean, from my side, I'm just expecting a lot of non-updates. Keep an eye on Garnacho, and Garnacho likes Chelsea, and Chelsea like Garnacho, and all of that. But we're just gonna have to wait, and also to see what sort of impact. Because one thing that we didn't talk about, and I actually wanted to maybe just mention quickly here, is the center back situation, because obviously we've Levi, horrible injury, and then we have Badiashile and Fofana not entirely fit, and the whole fan base went into chaos about we have to buy another center back, and I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but the discussion was up there. But when you look at numbers, just numbers of players available, you can look at it and say, okay, we don't have to panic. Not saying we don't have to buy, but you don't have to panic. But at the same time, when you're talking about strikers, then everybody's in agreement that just João Pedro and Liam Delap are enough. And it's just it's an interesting thing with fanbase, which sometimes I don't understand the logic in terms of how do you see things and why do you see the situations in a different light. I'm not, because if you lose one player in the center back position, obviously Levi's, I would say, our best center back. It has an impact, but it sent everybody into chaos. But then what happens if one of João Pedro and Delap and everybody seems to be very content with those two options and very happy to just say, okay, Nico is up for sale. So it's intriguing to me to see how the minds of the fan base and everything works. And this is not me saying who's right or wrong, because I have my opinions, obviously, but it's just interesting, to understand how it works. And because of that, and because people seem to be very adamant about wanting a center back, and we've seen talks about Enzo Maresca trying to find different solutions, which led me to believe that he would maybe use more of Josh or whatever. But we might see some movement in the market, and whether or not that impacts other deals, whether it's for Garnacho or Xavi that we've been linked to. So just how the ramifications of that affected us in the end of the transfer window will be very interesting for me as a fan of the transfer window to follow. Not necessarily a Chelsea fan, but as a fan of the madness of the transfer window.
Well, look, that's what we'll have Ben early on in the pod this week to chat about what's going on, and particularly how Chelsea view things after the Levi Colwill news, how that's maybe progressed over the course of the weekend, and then also what Chelsea are trying to do in terms of getting some people out, some little jettisons, some escape pods out for a couple players to better situations than where they have at Chelsea right now. But that's going to do it for this episode. So again, tons of positive vibes out of preseason, out of being champions of the world, into the Premier League season, a chance and an opportunity for Chelsea to try to figure out a way to hoist the trophy once again for the first time in a long time. But that's going to do it for this episode. Next time, so Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast. You can do that on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's always appreciated. Don't forget to leave a 5-star review on those platforms. You can also join us on YouTube. Like, comment on the videos as well. Let us know that Nick was a little bit more positive this episode. You should leave that comment there because he's going to really appreciate
positive
that.
for weeks. I don't understand.
I'm trying to fish for compliments for you. Okay, that's all I'm doing right now.
The people won't have
Don't forget to subscribe to our free weekly newsletter, The Lens Blue Dispatch. Sam had a wonderful article about the preseason as well too that you should have enjoyed and you have gotten in your mailbox. If you were subscribed, again, it's free. You should get involved with that. And then we have our Discord community of free or paid capacity as well. But that's going to do it for this episode. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.